Okay, so I don't know how this is gonna come out or sound because I have air conditioner going, and yeah, because it's stupid hot out today. But I know this is Ray's story, the podcast. Although nobody listens, and I hope nobody gets the wrong impression and thinks that I take myself too seriously, because I'm well aware that there's no audience. But it's not like I promote this or share it even on my own social media. So I usually just talk about my life, what's been going on, and in relation to losing Rachel to cancer over a year ago. And so I enjoy these podcasts. I like these podcasts, and I think I could talk about it. I could give reasons why I like this podcast that would sound more intellectual and more highbrow, but I think the reason why anybody would enjoy doing their own podcast is because most people when they have something to say, they like to talk about it and listen to themselves talk about it. I do think it's helpful. I think it's I don't think it's self-indulgent. I think it's helpful to talk about things because it helps you understand them, number one. And I could get into all sorts of stuff like how important is it to understand yourself or anything like that, but I think it helps you also formulate arguments and opinions that become foundationally who you are. So it does help to talk about life, things in general. So I do enjoy this, doing this, and I will continue to cast on this channel about Rachel and her life and her story, and I think I haven't really put a lot of work into that yet. I had so much to say after she died, and so much this story was just weighing on me, and I've told it. I really have told that story. So there's so much more to tell, but the story that was on my chest and required no labor for me to dig up, I think I've told. The part that was really profound, in the end there, and but I want to continue. I like this format, and I want to do something that I can promote. And I think anybody who, not even promote, but post on social media, get behind, talk about, maybe steer people in that direction. And here's the thing with grief. The world doesn't like grief. The world does not have our country, and society in general, only has so much capacity for grief, especially if you've not gone through a lot of it yourself. Everybody will, but in your daily life, people just don't want to continue to hear about someone you lost or what you went through in that loss, or even if most loss is people will just talk about what it's like to be without that person. But for me, I think it's unique when you lose someone to cancer, and you're there with them the whole time throughout the whole journey. It's unique. It's a story I have to tell because I firsthand witnessed from diagnosis all the way to death. if I'm being impersonal about it, I witness what cancer is like and what it does to somebody. Step by step by step, with being basically the number one ear for that person. So anything that person had to talk about, express their needs, their concerns, Rachel's hardest struggles, her worst days and her best days, I was there. I was with her. So I do think that I think I have a voice when it comes to that. I'm not saying I have a ton of experience with cancer, but I've seen it through. I've seen the worst possible scenario with cancer, and I've seen it through to the end. And then I can get much more personal about it, and I could just, blow your mind with the way that Rachel handled it. That's the real story. And so until I have that outlined and until I've kind of clarified what I want to say, and try to get out of the way of Rachel's story, because I think that's what I really want to do, is just tell her story without me, without my emotions. Just try to kind of communicate what I think her emotions were at the time. And I think I can do that. But moreover, everybody has a buddy at work or a good friend of theirs that the basis of their friendship is humor. And and so, of course, there's a guy I've been working with for years, really, off and on for, 5-6 years, maybe 5 years. And he's fucking hilarious. So we laugh all the time. And I really want to get him out, get him on a show, and maybe we'll do a podcast together. And because the first episode, I think, will just be an experiment to see if, it's very possible that the stuff we think that we laugh about between one another is maybe not funny to the rest of the world. And that would be, a helpful revelation if that's the case. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe, I don't know, I think it's pretty damn funny. My sense of humor is a little dark, a little sick, and sometimes it's at maybe somebody or something else's expense. But I think, it is what it is. You that's the way I grew up, joking around, and the guys that I hung around with, and we mean well, but I think it's a way to get through something mundane. And this dude's pretty funny, so we're gonna get on the show, and that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna talk shit. No real format, no real agenda, nothing, just hanging out. And it's funny because, well, it's kind of it would still be, if it wasn't for Rachel, I never would have started a podcast. I never really thought of the idea to start a podcast. Right, that's an original idea Rachel had with her friend Jessica. They used to talk about starting a podcast, and there's a lot that I've done after she died that I wish I did sooner, because I don't think she realized how easy it is to start a podcast, and how inexpensive it is to just start one. I think I have 30 episodes, maybe 20 something episodes already. Yeah, so it's pretty easy. So yeah, I mentioned it to my buddy Adam. It's this guy Adam. He's a great guy. It's he's just a sound individual, and he mentioned to me that he listened to to the podcast. This is when we weren't even working together during my hiatus, and I had put out some podcasts, and he listened to them. So, or he listened to one or two, maybe the two that I posted on Facebook, and that meant a lot to me. So, not only is he a funny guy, and one of those dudes that you look forward to, you're hoping is working the same day you are, but he's he's a solid dude. He's a good guy. And, yeah, sorry about that. I'm just pouring water for Rudy. And, yeah, he's just a good guy. And as hard as I know, I'm impossible to become friends with. I've had plenty of opportunities to become friends with people, solid people that I enjoy hanging out with. And I go out of my way to not engage. I think if I put any effort into friendships, I'd have plenty of friends, but I'm kind of an isolated guy. It's not because I don't like hanging out or I have social anxiety like I may have had as a youngster. But the social anxiety was never. It's not a chemical. It's not part of my DNA. The social anxiety comes from shame, if I'm being honest. So it began in high school when I was smoking a lot of weed. So it was basically just this circle of insecurity, you know, and weed became my identity, and eventually started to inhibit my ability to be a social person, and that just exacerbated itself, became a snowball where the more isolated I felt, the more weed I would smoke, and it would just create more isolation. So the social anxiety is shame. Shame of just not becoming, there's shame in neglecting potential or not living up to your potential. And now, as an adult, I mean, shit, I had every advantage. I was not an unintelligent kid growing up. As a very young kid, I was, in some of the like special classes for, the 5 kids that were picked out by some weird math guy, which is weird because I suck at math, but I just didn't try it at all, and I didn't want to be part of that scene, so I never did homework, never tried, and I graduated just based on my ability to bullshit my way through things. And so my achievements, I don't have any. I don't have any kids. Rachel's dead, so I'm not married. In my career, I've done shit. I've done shit with it, and I blame. I majored in art when I went back to college. It's just no excuse, but it's so my anxiety and my isolation comes from shame, lack of money, lack of. I'm not proud of anything I've done or any of the things I own so much. I think that's why I make these things now, because it's just easy. It's an easy way to not think about reality. It's, think about a project that you can start and finish in a day, and something that ends up looking pretty good, and you feel accomplished in a way that I can't feel just taking care of my responsibilities, because there's no meaning behind them. So, I don't know how I got started talking about that, but the point is, the name of the show is still up in the air. We've talked about maybe Golden Hands and the Psycho. Obviously, the Psycho being me, because I guess if you've worked with me, then there's no need for an explanation. But I can be a little psychotic. I can be a little. I think I'm crazier than most people that don't know me in a work setting or don't know me intimately would maybe coin me or pin me as. I don't know, maybe though, because the older I've gotten, the more I don't give a fuck about how I'm perceived. So I don't try to hide my craziness. Appreciate pretty open about it. And